Hi, Andres. Thank you so much for coming to BizTalk. That's my big pleasure having you here today. Please, let's talk a bit about yourself, who you are.
Thank you. My name is Andres Gutierrez. I'm from Colombia. I'm a tech entrepreneur. 8 years ago, I started doing entrepreneurs in Colombia, and I just fallen in love with the possibility of improving the lives of millions of people through technology. This is my second venture. I'm an Endeavor entrepreneur. I'm also a Y Combinator alum. And right now I'm ready to disrupt financial services in a continent that's been traditionally excluded, which is Latin America.
Thank you, Andres. Let's talk a bit of TPaga. I hope my spelling is right.
It's perfect. Thank you. TPaga is a mobile wallet that allows any consumer to open up a bank account, to transfer money to other consumers, to pay bills or top up your cell phone online, to pay at physical stores if stores have a QR code or if we're integrated with them, and even invest in mutual funds, Massimiliano and everybody. It's basically all the value propositions of a bank right there in your wallet. What's interesting of how we got to TPaga is that we didn't jump in thinking it was a big opportunity, which obviously it is. We got in because 5 years ago, we created the largest taxi hailing app in Colombia. Tappsi became the second largest actually in the continent. Every month we were transporting 1.5 million people, and we were transporting them in 3 different countries of Latin America. As we were growing this taxi hailing business, which is very similar to Uber or Lyft, we realized that 99% of the rides were paid in cash. And the reason they were paid in cash is that when the company charged the consumer via credit card, there was no way to send the money to the taxi driver. We were very naive and we asked the taxi driver, where should I send your money to? What bank account? The taxi drivers laughed at us, Massimiliano, and they said, look, I don't have a bank account. And that's when we realized that we would be able to be the bank of the hundreds of thousands of taxi drivers in Latin America if we were able to send the money to his mobile wallet or to his app, right? We realized that this problem wasn't just taxi drivers, but pretty much delivery people, truck drivers, door-to-door salesmen, and virtually 50% of the population that does not have a bank account, but they do have a cell phone. What's interesting is the reason why there hasn't been more neobanks that are just card-based in Colombia is because Colombia and most of the countries in Latin America are very cash dependent. To give you an idea, 90% of consumer transactions in Colombia are in cash, and only 34% of merchants receive card payments. So we realized that the solution wasn't just to provide somebody with a card, like most neobanks are doing in Europe and in the States. After graduating from Y Combinator, which was in summer 2017, their advice was, why don't you go back to Colombia and launch on top of banking as a service? That's how traditionally most of the wallets have been launching, right? N26 did it on top of the financial services of Wirecard. Venmo in the States launched through Plaid. I believe Chime is doing it over Galileo Marqueta. So we came back to Colombia and we started looking for banking as a service so that we can launch our wallet on top of infrastructure, right? But you can imagine, Massimiliano, what did we find when we came back to Colombia 2018 looking for banking as a service players? There was nobody. So we had to build everything from scratch. So the first 2 years of TPaga was us connecting to the banking network, us connecting to cash out networks, us connecting to retailers, us connecting to payments, us connecting to KYC, and pretty much building everything that you do find in developed markets from scratch. That allows us to have what we have right now in TPaga, which is a mobile wallet, like I mentioned, that has all the value propositions of a bank. To give you an idea, we are the largest cash out network in Colombia. The largest bank in Colombia has 6,000 ATMs where you can withdraw. We have over 20,000. We are the first mobile wallet to be integrated with the largest retailers of the country. So you can go to a Tesco or an Aldi or a Whole Foods and you can pay similar to Apple Pay in your cell phone. But we've also actually gone to the informal merchants so that you can pay when they have a QR code and just scanning over. 2020 hit and we became the fastest growing wallet in the country. And then in 2021, we become the fastest growing wallet in the continent. To give you an idea, it took us 2 years to reach the first 100,000 users. And then in COVID, when the Colombian economy contracted 6.5%, we grew 200%. And then we grew from 250,000 users at the beginning of the year to right now, I need to update this number, to 970,000 users right now, Massimiliano. This is close to 1 of every 50 Colombians having already TPaga. In terms of active users, we've also grown immensely. Just this year, we've grown from having 15,000 monthly active users to close to 300,000 monthly active users. And in terms of total payment volume, which is the money we process every month, we grew from having 1.1 last year to 2.7 at the beginning of the year. And now, right now, similar, we're getting close to $10 million per month. In terms of revenue, also the story is beautiful. A couple months ago, we were just getting $10,000 or $15,000 in revenue. And over the last 2 months, we've grown to surpass over $200,000 per month. That May was by far the biggest. And we can talk a bit more about how we've been growing in revenue. What's driving the growth? Since, like I explained to you guys, that we grew this wallet because the taxi hailing app needed to send money to the drivers, we built an API, and we're the only mobile wallet in Colombia to have an API so that companies can send money to drivers immediately when the driver or when the user requests it. It's not traditionally how most banks do, that every sort of CFO has to upload a file to the bank platform and send it to the users. This is an API that allows consumers from each of these apps, like TikTok, so that when he earns money, the TikTok user from TikTok just requests money and it's sent automatically to TPaga. So there's nobody in Beijing actually uploading a file and sending. It's all automatic. So we became the mobile wallet of TikTok. We are the solution which the Colombian government is sending subsidies, and we're partnering with on-demand transportation companies and even crypto and gaming companies, so that when a user wins money, he can receive that money automatically to TPaga. That's our hack of how we're driving growth from user. How are we growing from a merchant side? We managed to do a trip to China a couple of years ago, and we realized that the secret sauce behind the WeChat Pays and the Alipay is that they created an infrastructure called mini apps, which is apps of third parties embedded within your app. We replicated that infrastructure, and we're one of the only mobile wallets in the continent that have this infrastructure in play, which means if I want to grow my merchant base, or if I want to have more merchants offering services in TPaga, I don't have to integrate them one by one. I just give them access to my API, and they're the ones who connect, and just magically, I can have hundreds of thousands of merchants in our wallet. This is probably one of the most important questions, like how big is Colombia and why should I invest, which is probably the last question that you were asking, Massimiliano. It's because this can be massive in Colombia. To give you an idea, the total addressable market of payments in Colombia can be up to $160 billion. And this is not just conceptual. I have a couple slides to show you later here. It's not just conceptual, but in China, mobile wallets process 2.5 times the GDP of a country. So we can actually imagine that the GDP of Colombia times 2, that's what mobile wallets can process. And it's not just China. In Kenya, 40% of GDP is processed through M-Pesa. So it's actually feasible to believe that our total addressable market can be a portion, if not 2 or 3 times X, the GDP of a country, Massimiliano. And this is just Colombia, right? I think an important question as well is why now? And I think 5 years ago, nobody could do this in Colombia. To start, the regulation wasn't there. 5 years ago, you had to have $30 million to ask for an official bank license. Right now, you can do it with even $2 million or with an open banking partnership. At the same time, smartphone penetration in LATAM was 13, 15% a couple of years ago. Now it's over 50%. And finally, COVID has really accelerated digital adoption in a way nothing would have done. So this has sort of accelerated 5 years what it would have taken the market. So this is why now this is important in Colombia and LATAM. Where's TPaga going? We're not going to stop in payments. Payments is just the cornerstone or the entry to a whole suite of financial services that I'm going to offer my consumers. Like I mentioned, since consumers are receiving their payroll or their salaries via TPaga, I can easily start asking them, hey, Massimiliano, do you want to wait to the 30th or the end of the month to get your salary? Or do you want right now a percentage of that? So we can offer this early payroll in a heartbeat. At the same time, since I already have integrations with retailers and I know what's the earnings and expenses of a consumer, next time he's gonna pay at a retailer or he's gonna pay a bill, I can actually ask you, do you wanna pay with your credit card, or do you want me to offer you a special loan that you'll pay in 4 installments? At the same time, since I have data of consumers that are going to gas stations or on-demand economy drivers, I know if you have a motorcycle, a car, a truck, I know if you're a mom and pop. And since Colombians, only 30% have insurance of Colombians, we can offer insurance in a totally different way. And then finally, which is my dream product, imagine next time you're paying a bill, Massimiliano, and you're paying a bill of $37.50. And the app asks you, Massimiliano, why don't we round up to 38 or to 40? And those $2.50 will start investing them in cryptos or investing them in a mutual fund or in stocks. Imagine the opportunity that we have of using every transaction and rounding it up to invest in alternative investments. This is how we expect to grow. So right now, roughly per year, we can get $10 of revenue per user via wallet. But once we launch our debit card, which is soon to launch next month, once we launch credits, once we launch insurance and investments, we can have yearly revenue per user of $150 per year. At the same, I'm going to jump through this slide because I think we can go back to it sooner because I've been taking too much time here. But we basically, since we built our infrastructure from scratch, we realized that we can provide our rails, our APIs to third parties who want to launch their own financial services. And this is not conceptual either. We signed the largest telco in the continent, which is Claro, and they're currently using our banking as a service infrastructure. Finally, this is where we want to be in 2 years. We want to grow from 1 million users to 4 million. Of those, we want to have 1 million monthly active users. We want to grow from 8 million month total payment volume to 55 million. And we want to have revenues of close to $1 million per month. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you, Andres, very much. I mean, I have a few questions, and sure. I'm really in financial inclusion, and this is what you're doing. And pretty much places like South America, Asia, and Africa, having access to the banking system, it's almost impossible. So this is not a matter of creating a company that generates revenue. Of course, your company has, and it will, but also helping people to have a better life, which means you have your part of impact, and very well done. Now, in terms of adoption, for what is my view when it comes to application and adopting cashless or no cash at all way to pay, I mean, let's say from 20 to 40, 50, adoption can be quite easy. Above can be very complicated, right? Because you need a smartphone, or anyway, you need to educate people. There's nothing to do. Now, because Colombia has, I think, mainly of South America, they do not have access, and you give access to credit, that's for sure is a big value proposition, but you still need to teach them, right? To make them confident how to use. How do you do this? How do you get on board clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think to start, there are two things that are really interesting about Latin America, and especially Colombia. We have a very young demographic, Max. So it's very different to Europe, right? Where the demographic is, it's constantly older people and not so much younger. Colombia, it's totally different. So I think it's going to be easier to penetrate because the younger people are naturally more keen to download these apps, right? I think to your second point, the way we're building that trust is that we're starting with payments. So with payments, it's not so much of a trust of I'm getting a credit or I'm repaying you. It's just a matter of you get your salary and then you're starting to pay for it, right? And since we're showing most of the apps of the retailers, I'm really piggybacking off their big brands so that they believe in us. So it's quite interesting. So for example, you can receive a remittance from Western Union. So you have the logo of Western Union, and Western Union is well known. So everybody says, all right, if they're with Western Union, they're legitimate. At the same time, for payment stores, these are a couple of the retailers, and they're some of the largest of the continent. So there's Chilean Cencosud, there's La 14. So part of the strategy we do is that we show everybody that we're partnering with these brands so that they can show, or that we can show that we're not just a different type of company, but we're very well represented. A big part as well was partnering with the government. As soon as we partnered with the government, Massimiliano, the government started communicating what are their entities so that way they send out money. So that when you go online and just put government subsidies, TPaga appears there. And that's a big part of gaining trust as well.
How does Goldman pay today?
2 years ago, 2 years ago, they paid in cash. So they told you, go back outside to like a stadium or like a rural town and everybody queue up in a line and I'll pay in cash. Now, due to COVID, they're starting to pay via mobile wallets. So there's 5 mobile wallets that we're getting 2 million consumers that are getting paid subsidies every 2 months.
Okay.
So that's a big part, using partners.
Yeah, that's the good when, you have places like South America, Colombia, Chile, I think. I do believe almost all South America, you have seriously an endless territory where getting to, because it's very unserved. You still have to do everything. So there is a lot to do. This is why you are doing very well, be there and launch your venture there, where there is a lot of necessity, right? People need.
Absolutely right.
One more question. Joel, how, in terms of business model, is pretty clear. What's the average ticket size, the average, let's say, transaction on your wallet?
Great question. So the average transaction is approximately $30. So that's for bill payments. So when a consumer pays his electricity bill, there's TPaga right there. You can pay it via TPaga, or when a consumer cashes out money at a cash out kiosk, or when a consumer goes to a retailer and pays with TPaga. So those are typically the ticket sizes. In terms of business model, we charge 2 ways. When a company like the Colombian government, although it's not a company, sends money to consumers, we charge the Colombian government approximately 50 cents every time they send it to one person. And then when the consumer pays at the retailer or at the gas stations or cell phone top-ups, I charge the telecos, I charge the retailers, I charge the gas stations a percentage. So it's similar to the payment processing fee from Visa, but since I built this sort of cash-in solution, we're charging them as well. The problem that we have from our business model today, Massimiliano, is most of the transactions are for consumers who want to withdraw money at cash kiosks, and we're offering that for free because we knew that was going to be a key part of gaining this traction and gaining users to use us. So we're subsidizing a part of the transaction.
Let me say, this is right. I do believe we need to tackle cash as much as we can. I'm very against cash, absolutely against cash. Cash is laundry money, cash is a lot of, cash is less tax, like cash is everything, right? Negative, it's not positive. We should, before, I can understand because technology was not there. Now we have a lot of technology, we can absolutely live without cash. I'm in Italy for 2 months now. I've been having my coffee yesterday. The lady told me, you can't pay with card. I said, of course, if you don't want my card, I get your coffee for free. Because you had to, by law, accept my card, all right?
Oh, wow.
Why should I go to the ATM, withdraw the money, coming back to you? I just wasted minutes of my life. Yeah. When the law is telling me why. I can understand, because when the provider is charging 3% of any transaction, and maybe your margins too, makes no sense to get the transaction done, right? You are losing money. But when it comes to withdraw money, of course, you need to do this, but we should very much learn teaching how to live the life without cash, okay? Because it's useless, simply useless. You're
absolutely right.
You have a credit card, debit card, and touch them, or you have your mobile and touch it, and that's it, right? Wow, it's so easy. I don't understand why I should use cash, which is almost in COVID. And cash is, can only bring virus as well, because this
You're
way.
right. And I think, I don't know if you've read it enough. If not, I'm going to send you a copy. I just finished this book called The Curse of Cash.
Send to me.
And it's pretty much what you exactly just said. It's for laundering money. It's for when you didn't have technology, but now it's so bad that we need to replace it. And the second point that you mentioned is super important. I think we haven't done that yet. And I think that's what we're going to do with the raise, Massimiliano, which is do a lot more education. Because people here don't understand that when you don't pay in cash or when you pay in card, you're actually building a history so that when you need a credit, somebody can go back and say, oh yeah, you do have transaction or you do repay. Because one of the reasons that we got into this was a taxi driver taxi driver of TPaga, twice went to a bank and asked for a credit. Despite him gaining more than the average income of Colombians, because his salary is $1,000 a month, bank twice said no. And when he said, why not? He said, look, I just did sort of this credit score. You've never had a credit, so I can't give you. And then what's your income? And he says, okay, he took out a stash of bills. The bank said, dude, that's not proof of income. Show me an income where somebody pays you to your bank. And he's like, I get paid in cash. So twice he was rejected a credit. And it's not because he won't pay. It's just because everything has been done in cash.
Absolutely. Has to be, it's a process, it's a learning process. Understand what people believe all the life with cash. You want to take away the cash, they say, hold on, I need cash. Why do you want to take away cash from me? When it comes to two questions, more sensible to crypto when it comes to allowing payments with crypto, though now it's a very downside moment, but that's crypto. That's not going to be a big deal. And also, you are moving to a bank because this is what you're doing, right? You are moving to be a broker for the insurance. You're moving to be a bank for giving loans, and maybe one day we open, I'm pretty sure, your online account to hold cash. So because that's where you're going, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to regulation, and my third question is the infrastructure.
Yeah. So I think there's three things to what you were saying. So cryptos, Colombia became the first country in Latin America to start a sandbox to allow crypto trading between marketplaces and banks. So they copied the whole concept of sandbox from the UK, and they built this sort of regulatory framework so they can allow experiments to be done with crypto. First country in Latin America. So it's going to be a huge burst.
We had on Sandbox in Colombia a week ago with the Colombia Chamber of Commerce in UK, a very nice talk.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they elaborated more on that. So that's going to be huge. I think from a regulation, the Colombian government has also allowed open banking. So right now we can open up accounts from a regulated bank, from an authorized bank, but we don't have to do all the regulatory work of the compliance. It's just sort of connecting with the banking via sort of a rails that we've created. For the other insurance credits, what we're thinking of doing to start, Massimiliano, is that we're going to offer third parties here. It's not going to be a credit from TPaga. It's not going to be an insurance from TPaga. It's going to be a credit from Credit Suisse. It's going to be an insurance from Aon, right? It's going to be third parties doing it via TPaga. So we can, like we say, Colombians, or they used to like bullfighting. So we can watch the bulls from the aisle so that we can see, Aon is sending 600. Interesting. Schwab is doing 200. Wow, why haven't we done? And then we can really understand which financial service we're offering. But we're going to start just being a marketplace, just charging a fee. And then when we know which business makes sense, that's when we have the data, that's when we have the users, and then we can sort of jump into it. But at first, we're just going to be sort of a huge marketplace, like a financial super app. The only app you have to have for all your financial services. They're going to have various players, and we're just a provider, and then we jump in.
When it comes to infrastructure, are you going to use Visa, MasterCard, I suppose?
Yeah, so when card payments, when somebody's paying with an actual card, we do have to go through the payment network. And in Colombia, there's two companies that have sort of the monopolies. One used to be the Visa, one used to be the MasterCard. So we go through one called CrediBanco. So that's one of the two authorized companies. That's for card. When it's not card, it's our own infrastructure, which is the beauty of what we're doing. So if I'm the fruit stand behind me and she has a QR code, when you pay, the money that she gets is at the TPaga account. So I'm the holder of that. If this lady then goes and transfers money to her daughter, it's all through the TPaga network. So we're not using visas. We're not using anybody anymore. It's our own sort of proprietary platform.
That's smart. That's very smart. Are you already testing or allowing any crypto transaction?
Yeah. So right now we're allowing with a marketplace called Buddha. And to be honest, 30% of our net profit per customer comes from the crypto marketplace, because the margins we can charge them are higher than I can charge gas stations or retailers, because they have a margin pretty interesting. So we're just starting to do that, but we've been doing it sort of secretive because the government is just starting to regulate it. But we do plan in 2 months to come with a sort of a big launch of showing everybody in TPaga. Once you open up the app, we have like banners here on top that scroll. We're going to have a big banner of crypto, and the first icon is going to be buy right now a Bitcoin and Ether, so that we can start getting people to buy it via TPaga.
But today, Colombia, where are you going after?
After Peru, Ecuador, all Central America. I think we're really focused. We're going to focus on the second tier markets, not the countries like Chile that already have high banking population, or markets like Brazil where there's too many already neobanks and banks doing that, or Mexico, which is too competitive. I think to start, we're going to go to sort of second tier markets where they're very similar to Colombia in terms of unbanked, lack of infrastructure, cash, then build out these markets. And then eventually, if we are strong enough, then we can probably go to a Mexico or to Brazil. But to start, I think it's just suicide to try to jump into Mexico or Brazil where we are right now.
Mexico is very competitive, yeah. And I mean, Brazil, Mexico, yeah, probably. Yeah. I was saying Venezuela, but you need to be very careful now in Venezuela. But again, that's a huge market. I hope this market can be back one day. For now,
I hope so.
It's pretty much closed. It's a massive market. So let's go back to your round. How much are you raising now? And I never talked about valuation, but just give a flavor. But valuation is very personal. It's very
sure. It is. We've raised 6 million in what we call seed funding, Massimiliano, and that's what sort of brought us here. The last raise we did was in a convertible note, and then converting at a cap of $20 million. So that was the latest that we did, which was a year ago. I think in terms of valuation, I think we're going to be close to that. Despite our numbers growing 3x, 4x from what we did a year ago, I don't think our valuation is 3x, 4x. So I think we're going to be within that 20 to 30 range, right? What we're planning on raising right now is $8 million. So this is going to be a price round. So it's not going to be a safe or a convertible note. This is going to be a price round. We just started funding a week and a half ago, which is the trip to San Francisco that I mentioned. And the idea is to run a very tight process with the investors we know who like the space, who are interested in what we're doing, and hopefully in the next month and a half have one or various term sheets, and then choosing the investor based on the fit and not based on just the biggest valuation. So that hopefully in 3 months we can get back to building the business. That's sort of where we are sort of in the process. We do have investors, for current and new ones, who would like to follow. We just don't have a lead investor right now, and that's what we're looking for.
What's your cap table in terms? How is composed your cap table?
Yeah, so it's primarily founders and angel investors. I think after the Series A, because most of them have always been inverted in convertibles. So they're not shareholders right now. They're going to convert. I think after the Series A, founders should have approximately 50%. The new investor, we estimate that he's going to have 20 to 25, and then 30-ish would have the previous investors. That's sort of how the distribution is going to be. We do have an employee stock option plan of 7% that we have yet to allocate, but we've sort of assigned that so that we can bring amazing talent, and I don't have to break my piggy bank to get a great McKinsey guy, but I can say, look, just get some shares, and this way you'll be a lot richer when we exit.
I mean, stock option is the best way to test how good are your employees, right? If they have the entrepreneur mentality, they're good. If they want to be paid, leave them alone. That's my opinion.
I agree.
I give stock option to everyone, and someone said to me, "I want only to be paid." I say, you know what? That's the door, because you're not for me.
You're absolutely right. And you want people who actually who are hurt if the app falls, people who want to grow. And I think that's the only way to make this work, to be honest. I agree.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Andres. I think we have been covering everything. I really want to come in Colombia as soon as I can. I can't wait to travel again. I'm getting a little bit bored here. But before I'm coming, I really thank you for this very lovely talk. And can we close with your message to who should invest the money in your company?
Yeah.
Why they should?
Yeah. I think you should, because I think Latin America financial service is the final frontier. I think we've seen mobile money take over in Africa. In Asia, it's evident. In the States and in Europe, I don't think there's such a big opportunity. But Latin America is sort of the biggest opportunity for financial services in the world. I think if you look at Colombia is the third largest market in the continent, but it's by far the best in terms of regulation and the least competitive. And I've proven myself that I can scale a tech company before. I sold it for $30 million 4 years ago. And I think I can sell this for $1 billion. And if you're not just interested in the money, but you're interested in making a change and helping millions escape poverty, this is the opportunity, because with financial inclusion, we can do that. So hopefully that resonates with more than one. Massimiliano, thank you. And if you want,
it does.
In the interim, what I can do is I can share the deck in what we call an initial data room. So you have the deck, some projections, a couple KPIs, just so that you can go over that with your time or with your team. And if there's questions, we can definitely take it from there.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you, Andres. Thank you very much. Good luck, and I'm pretty sure you will succeed.
I hope so. Thank you very much, Massimiliano, and hope to see you in Colombia soon.